The ordinance committee meeting, and we have one item on the agenda. It's an ordinance amending section 110-138 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, and our city attorney is going to explain it to us.
So at the last council meeting, when we had a petition for a name change, I think Mr. Watson brought up that he'd like to see the ordinance amended to where anyone whose address would change by a street name being changed should be notified in advance of the public hearing and the proposed street name. So this would add that language to it. The ordinance actually requires a public hearing before the ordinance is amended, and it's actually on the agenda. We've already put out notice of the public hearing for next council meeting, but I'm bringing it to ordinance committee so you can see the language in advance of the council meeting. And as luck would have it, we also have a petition for another street name change. We go all these years and don't have any, then we have two coming, but the person who is asking for the street to be changed owns every single lot on that street. So this change
So
wouldn't
it
have.
won't take very many letters.
Exactly, that's right.
Who would you see would be responsible for sending out those certified mail? It's not real clear.
Well, we could make it specific to, I mean, I think the mayor's office does since it's posted on the website and social media, the mayor's office does that. And my office can send out the letters because we can,
So it
Pull up
wouldn't
the
be
property
person
records.
asking for the name change responsibility.
not unless you made it.
Well, I just wondered.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, on zonings, they have to provide proof of that, but
You think?
I didn't want to make this as onerous since it's actually the
this would be
city.
the city's
Yeah.
responsibility.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
we don't get into, it wouldn't matter to us who owned the property. Well, I guess it would. I just wondered if we'd have to get into working with the county to get, or could you just go down that list of addresses that are on that street, and send letters to those?
Well, of course, we've learned how you can depend on the,
Hmm?
we've learned how sometimes, depending on what address is on the
And
assessor's
on that
website.
last one, there were a lot of unimproved properties.
There were. And
The
it
one-
sounds like on the next one there will be too.
Well, the one that's coming next week, it involves, I think, several duplexes,
Oh.
but they're all on the same street.
Okay,
It's
so they're
Robert,
already
Robert
developed.
Circle.
Property owner.
Yes,
And who's-
property owner owns all of them,
Oh.
and they're wanting to change the name
Okay,
and,
I guess we'd have to go back to the property owners then on record.
but, and this may not come up. We haven't had a street name change since Rio Bravo was changed to Metroplex, aside from the Bethel Heights. We hadn't had one, so just so happens we've had two in short succession. But this language was intended to incorporate your suggestion.
Yeah.
And it would be done by the city. It wouldn't be done by the person making the petition.
We've got another one, it may or may not come forward, but I've heard some discussion about it. That maybe it would be a new street with no development on it yet. So we would still send it to all the property owners, under this change, we'd still send it to all the property
Now,
owners?
this is only if the street name, if there is a
Existing name.
change. Because now, street names are assigned when we go through the plat process. That's when street names are normally assigned.
You
I'm
know,
not sure if this is.
I had a thought the other day, since we were talking about street names anyway, that if we ever did have a new street and wanted to do some sort of memorial name, I don't know why we've never thought about the police officer, what was his name, Halsey?
Hussey?
We did, 612.
We did
Oh, we
612.
have that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
612, okay. So
Yeah,
that
we did
was
612.
And then we've already talked about,
We talked about
Truman.
the extension of Dixieland from
That's the
Truman
one,
Brewer.
that's the one I was referencing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the,
All right, I'm sorry,
That
I
would-
forgot about
Yeah.
it.
to pay honor to him and to the department.
Yeah, all right, never mind.
I guess the question on that one would be, just as far as the process, not whether we can do it or not.
the new street.
Whether it's a new street, but has there already been some designation to Dixieland that we would need to change? Or is it just wide open and we can name it?
It might be a question for the
For
GIS,
plan- Yeah, or GIS.
GIS
Okay.
person.
Either way, we could get it done, I just didn't know what it would involve in this process.
But this would be for the situation that Jeff mentioned, the last one.
Okay.
Just making sure people get notice.
Well,
been a motion and a second. We'll move this forward to the council for recommendation for approval. Any further discussion?
I had one question, is it just property owners, or is it residents as well? Would it be considered just property owners?
It says property owners. So, for example, the one coming up is, next week. It's the same property owner that owns every single.
But I'm just wondering if
Duplex.
it's a residential street and there's a bunch of residents that it's gonna affect them, but I guess we're just
I mean,
looking.
the property
Well,
owner
if they're renting,
I
would be affected, not the resident.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, except they'd have to change their mailing address.
Well, yeah, but the property owner should be responsible for.
Yeah.
Because we do and everything else as a property owner, not
Because
necessarily.
they're,
They'll notify them, but they're still gonna have to notify all they're gonna have to go through the process of changing their address.
sure, but the residents are just.
And that's
there on
that's
lot.
one of the number one things.
That's right. Code enforcement goes to the landlord,
It would,
not the residents.
Unless
unless you just send it to that address and said, this address is changing to,
We could put something in the notice to the property owner, please notify all occupants or whatever.
Sounds good.
To the 8 residents with the same social security number at this address. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is there anything else come forward in this committee? If not, we stand adjourned.
My discussion, is really null and void at this point. As I understand it, the traffic committee, there is no appeal process because it's done in-house. And if they want to, residents can bring it to the council for discussion. And so I am going to remove this from today's agenda, and I would like to add, which I'll tell Anna next week, for Lakeview residents and Turner residents to go back to looking at the report that was done for those streets and some
The
other.
traffic study that's done on those
The
streets.
traffic study and some other incidents that were brought to light, to me anyway, they might not be to you, but we can discuss that 2 weeks from tonight. It'll be fine.
alright. Chief, will you be able to give any updates at that time on what y'all have been doing since and that sort of thing? I
Yeah.
think we also need the engineering to be there, because I know we were looking at some improvements. They're not the improvements they were asking for, but they're improvements that may help. They were looking at adding a 4-way stop and some crosswalks and some things like that.
And possibly, I know some of the residents are questioning, is it all the same process? How did other areas get it? Maybe if I could take a look at the 2 studies as a comparison, maybe Deering and Lakeview, then I can maybe see where, where or if there's any issues.
All right, I see James nodding, so, and we're looking at some in a different situation now, but they're not comparable to Lakeview at all. But those haven't, has that already been approved, James?
I haven't got the count back yet.
Okay, all right.
And that's all.
Okay,
Guess that's it.
I guess that's it.
Committee?
How about that? We can talk about stuff.
9 minutes. 9 minutes.
Yeah.